And welcome back to WDEF News 12 this morning. It's time for How Does Your Garden Grow? And Tim Holcomb joining us from the Holcomb Garden Center, 756-1212. If you have a question concerning your garden, maybe your lawn, again, 756-1212 will get you the answers that you need. Tim, as always, we appreciate you stopping by.
Good morning, Brian.
Before we get into the callers here, I'm going to say it like what you just told me. If it's got roots, it's on sale.
That's
What's
right.
going on this week?
We're having our first ever start to summer sale, and every plant on the place is 30% off. Some of them even as much as 50% off. But now is the perfect time to get those knockout roses, encore azaleas, crepe myrtles, things that you've been looking at, endless summer hydrangeas, 30% off, cheapest of the year.
And it seems like it goes without saying, with the weekend being as nice as it is, you guys are going to be busy. There are still plenty of color out there that you can buy that will last all summer.
A lot of color, a lot of plants, and folks ask, can we plant in the summer? And yes, you can. All the plants are grown in containers. They have all their roots. You're just giving them more room to grow. So food and water, and they're happy.
All right, once again, we're going to answer your gardening questions. 756-1212 will get you in contact with us. Sharon is our first caller. Good morning to you, Sharon.
Good morning.
Hi.
Good morning.
Yes, I have a question on my begonias. They're not doing too good. What would be the best way to plant them, in the ground or in a pot? And the next question is, where can I find Touch Me Not?
Okay, your begonias will be very happy in the ground or in a pot. The main thing is they'll need regular water and they need food. If they're in a container, they've probably run out of food because you're having to water so much. It will take less water in the ground, but they'll be good either one. Touch Me Nots you're going to get from seed. You can get those and plant them, and they should reseed themselves and come back each year.
Phil is our next phone caller. Good morning to you, Phil.
Good morning, sir.
Hi, go ahead.
Hey, my question is, I've got my okra. It's about waist high, but it hasn't bloomed yet at all.
Okay.
What can I do to help it bloom?
Well, you can certainly give it a fertilizer with a higher middle number. Most likely it's the variety that you planted. If you plant dwarf green long pod, it'll start blooming when it's 12, 18 inches tall. If it's Clemson spineless, it may be 3 to 5 foot tall before it starts blooming. And of course, it'll grow till it's 8 to 10 foot tall. So it could be yours is just fixing to bust out blooming and lots of okra.
Debbie is our next phone caller. Good morning to you, Debbie.
Good morning.
Hi.
Good morning.
I have a Concord grapevine, and I've trimmed it back, and it seems like every time I trim it back, I have a lot of long vines, but I'm not getting a lot of grapes. Can you tell me maybe if I'm trimming it incorrectly?
Well, you probably are, yes ma'am. You want to allow it to grow this year, and then this winter, like in January, you want to prune it back. You can trim off that long vine, but leave about 4 to 6 inches of this year's growth, and that's where your grapes will be next year. If you cut that growth completely off, you will not have any grapes, but allow the vines to grow this year, and then trim them back except for about 4 to 6 inches in January.
And Vicki joining us now on the phone lines. Good morning to you, Vicki.
Good morning.
Hi.
Good morning.
I have a quick question. We have crepe myrtles that are about 5 years old, and the first year that we planted them, they bloomed and were gorgeous, and that's the only time they've bloomed. What are we doing wrong? We've put lime on them. We've done everything we know to do. Trimmed them back. Help.
Okay. Well, they bloom on new growth, and they bloom in full sun. Most likely you've got some shade trees that have kind of encroached on their area or their sun. Be sure and trim those back. Also feed them with a high middle number fertilizer. We use one called triple super phosphate, 045-0, and that will tend to make them bloom more than normal.
Bill is our next phone caller. Good morning to you, Bill.
I've got some coconut squash.
Yes, sir.
They get blooms on them, but blooms fall off, and they don't have no squash come on them.
Okay. If they've just started blooming, they will have male and female blooms, and usually the first blooms come on, or the male blooms. Very soon it should start producing female blooms along with the male blooms. A female bloom will actually have a squash attached to it, and once it's pollinated, it'll fully develop. But just kind of watch them, be patient, because once you start getting squash, you'll have enough for yourself and the neighbors.
Leon is our next phone caller. Good morning to you, Leon.
Yes, I have some pear trees that I was told it's fire blight.
Yes, sir.
And I haven't found anything that's been effective to stop it.
Well, that's correct. It's very much weather related. It is a virus that gets on them early spring when there's a lot of rain and fast growth. This time of year, if you'll cut off the damaged part, cut it back into the healthy part, and it's recommended you wipe your pruners off with alcohol between each pruning. And then next year, when it's blooming, you can spray it with streptomycin, which is a fire blight spray, and it will prevent it for next year.
Ebert is our next phone caller, and a good morning to you.
Good morning. I got a tomato, one of those upside down coming out of the bottom.
Yes, sir.
and the tomatoes are small, but they're rotting in the end.
Yes, sir.
And I planted some in the garden at the same time, and I've got tomatoes on them.
Yes, sir. Well, first of all, the garden is the best place to grow them, or a normal container. But if you do have them that are rotting on the bottom, that's called blossom end rot. It's where you're having to water so much it has leached all the calcium out of the soil. And there is a spray called Yield Booster that is a liquid calcium, and it will stop that blossom end rot, so you'll have good ripe tomatoes.
And Joyce joining us. Good morning to you, Joyce.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have a question about our lawn. We have fescue, and we started developing these patches of brown, and now they actually start out looking like a dog has come and maybe urinated there. But now we're seeing them separately all over our lawn. Could you tell me what this might be from?
Well, most likely it's brown patch, and the month of June was one of the worst we've seen in a long time. It's when you have night temperatures over 70 degrees, fungus is quite active. If it tends to be getting worse, you need to put down a granular fungicide, and that will stop it. And many times it will recover and be fine. And if worst case scenario, you need to sow more seed in September.
Some great questions this morning. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. We're going to put the information on your screen. It is the Holcomb Garden Center. A couple locations, one off of Highway 153 in Hickson and the other one off of Battlefield Parkway in Fort Oglethorpe. The easiest way to know is holcombgc.com. Tim, we appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you, Brian.
And folks, don't forget about the big sale this weekend. All right, folks, we're going to take a short break. We're doing some more grilling coming up next.